Across continents and millennia, the human story has been written not only in ink and memory, but in stone. Long before written chronicles and recorded laws, our ancestors carved their beliefs, fears, ambitions, and devotion into landscapes that outlived them by thousands of years. From cliffs hollowed into cities to towers rising alone on ancient plains, monumental architecture is humanity's oldest autobiography, a slow, patient language spoken in weight, symmetry, and precision. These structures were never merely shelters, they were statements. To raise stone upon stone, each block shaped by human hands demanded more than strength. It required organization, insight, and a fearless confidence that the future would care to remember. Engineering became a form of prayer. Geometry became a spiritual instrument. Landscapes were studied, measured, and transformed not randomly, but symbolically, each setting chosen with intention, each horizon considered sacred. The builder did not work alone. Entire societies moved as one body, unified by ideas powerful enough to justify decades of labor. Entire lifetimes devoted to shaping surfaces that would outlast flesh and bone. Monumental architecture is therefore never silent. It whispers of rulers and workers, priests and prisoners, craftsmen and kings. It speaks of devotion, to gods, to empire, to memory itself. Durability became a philosophy. Precision became a form of loyalty. In the language of stone, a civilization declared what it feared, what it honored, and what it believed would endure after death. Yet for all their mass, these monuments are fragile in one way. Their meaning can erode. Earthquakes fracture them, sand buries them, empires forget them. And still they remain, rising through vines and dust, enduring abandonment and rediscovery, reminding each new generation that it is not the first to dream of permanence. This journey follows the world's oldest architects, not through the records they left behind, but through the spaces they created. From fortified gates and subterranean refuges to temples, statues, and alignments that still baffle modern science, we trace one unbroken human instinct: the need to make belief visible, to give ideas a physical weight, to anchor identity in terrain and stone. These are not ruins. They are conversations across time. Each monument is a surviving sentence written into the planet itself, monumentally symbolic, engineered for durability, positioned with precision, and filled with the quiet devotion of people who knew their lives were brief, but hoped their work would be eternal. In the northeastern corner of the Peloponnese, surrounded by harsh limestone hills and wind-scoured plains, the ancient citadel of Mycenae rises from a rugged landscape that feels naturally defensive, as if the earth itself demanded fortification. The approach to its heart is narrow and steep, a corridor shaped not merely by nature, but by intention, a funnel designed to impress, intimidate, and instruct the visitor long before they reach the city proper. Dominating this entrance is the Lion Gate, a monumental composition of stone blocks so massive that later Greeks believed only giants could have set them in place. Two upright slabs support an immense lintel, above which a relieving triangle houses the iconic relief. Two lions standing on either side of a central column, their heads once inlaid with metal and long since lost to time. The precision with which these stones interlock, without mortar, speaks of engineering at its most confident and controlled, an architecture that trusted gravity, geometry, and skill to hold centuries in place. Constructed around the 13th century BCE, during the height of Mycenaean power, this gate served not merely as an entrance, but as a declaration. This was a warrior society, ruled by kings who traced their authority through blood, conquest, and divine favor. The lions, symbols of dominance and protection, announced clearly that this was a city under sacred guardianship, defended not just by walls, but by ideology. Beyond the gate lay palaces, storerooms, and royal graves, including shaft tombs rich with gold masks and weapons. Archaeological evidence of a culture deeply invested in status, ritual, and remembrance. Excavations revealed that Mycenae was not an isolated stronghold, but a powerful hub connected through trade routes spanning the Mediterranean, exchanging bronze, ivory, wine, and myth. Today, conservation efforts focus on stabilizing these cyclopean walls and protecting the relief from weathering, allowing the lions to continue their silent vigil. And as the wind slips through the gateway, one feels the weight of intention embedded in the stone, a sense that this threshold was built not just to protect a city, but to define a civilization. The Lion Gate stands as an early anthem to human ambition, where devotion met defense, and monumental engineering became identity carved directly from the land. In the heart of central Turkey, where volcanic rock has softened into surreal valleys and chimney-like spires, lies a landscape that feels half earth, half dream. Cappadocia's surface appears already carved by imagination, but it is beneath this lunar terrain that humanity's most secret devotion to survival is revealed, an entire world buried below the wind. The underground cities of Cappadocia descend deep into the tough bedrock, unfolding as a labyrinth of corridors, chambers, kitchens, churches, and stables. Some extend 8 levels below the surface, linked by narrow passages and sealed with rolling stone doors weighing hundreds of kilograms. Ventilation shafts rise like invisible trees through the rock, feeding air into chambers where entire communities once lived without sunlight for months at a time. This is architecture turned inward, engineering shaped by fear, and stone repurposed as sanctuary. These subterranean networks were carved over centuries, beginning in the early 1st millennium BCE and expanded during the Byzantine era. As invasions and religious persecution swept through Anatolia, underground life became not a metaphor, but a strategy. Precision here was not decorative, it was vital. Each tunnel was designed to confuse intruders, each room arranged for efficiency. Food storage, livestock care, water collection, and worship were all integrated into a single rock-bound organism. The cities served dual identities, refuge and faith. Hidden chapels with faded frescoes, whisper of devotion practiced in secret, while trapdoors and slopes remind us that survival itself was sacred. This was a world shaped by silence, where engineering did not dominate the landscape but surrendered to it, dissolving into stone rather than rising above it. Archaeologists continue to map these underground expanses, discovering new rooms and forgotten halls that challenge assumptions about ancient urban planning. Preservation is a delicate balance here. Humidity, tourism, and erosion threaten a structure never meant for exposure to modern eyes. Yet as one stands inside these buried cathedrals, lit by soft modern lamps, the stone still hums with ancient breath. Cappadocia's underground cities reveal a quieter form of monumentality, not in scale above ground, but in depth of resolve. Here, devotion took shelter beneath the world, and humanity carved permanence where it least expected to find it. On the floor of the Jordan Valley, where the air is heavy and the land sinks below sea level, one of humanity's oldest architectural visions quietly endures. Jericho, often called the world's oldest city, stands on layers of forgotten lives, civilizations stacked upon civilizations like sedimentary memory. From this ancient earth rises the Great Stone Tower, an enigma built at the dawn of urban existence. The tower is simple in form, yet profound in implication, a circular stone structure over 8 meters tall, with an internal staircase that spirals upward through solid masonry. Nearby stands an equally ancient wall, suggesting a defensive system unlike anything known from such an early period. Constructed around 8000 BCE, this tower predates writing, pottery, and even metal tools, and yet its execution reveals advanced planning and unwavering precision. Its stones were not randomly stacked. Each layer leans slightly inward, transferring weight with mathematical instinct. This is prehistoric engineering, not as experiment, but as confidence. The builders knew how stone behaves. They understood balance before they could explain it. Historians still debate the tower's purpose. Was it defensive, guarding stored food and families? Was it ceremonial, aligned with the setting sun or a nearby mountain in ritual design? Or was it symbolic, a vertical statement in a flat world, marking territory not just physically, but spiritually? Whatever the answer, this tower emerges from the Neolithic age as the earliest known act of monumental engineering. It suggests that humans did not wait for kings or gods to build grand structures. The desire for permanence began with the first farmers who dared to believe in tomorrow. Excavations reveal skulls preserved in plaster, art born in survival, and tools shaped for a settled life. Preservation work today carefully guards against erosion and water infiltration, keeping one of the first architectural experiments alive in an environment that despises stone as much as it forged it. The Great Stone Tower of Jericho is more than a ruin. It is a fossil of human thought, proof that long before empire, humanity had already learned to build meaning into rock. East of the Nile, where the desert rolls into the horizon like a slow ocean of sand, stand the pyramids of Meroe, sharp silhouettes against a golden landscape that hides more history than memory can hold. Unlike Egypt's pyramids, these are slender, steep, and numerous, forming a cemetery not of one dynasty, but of centuries. Over 200 pyramids rise from this desert, some no taller than a modern house, others piercing the sky with an elegance lost to time. Built of sandstone, their surfaces catch the sun fiercely by day and vanish into shadow by night. This is a landscape shaped by devotion to afterlife, a monumental city for the dead. Meroe was the capital of the kingdom of Kush, a rival of Egypt and heir to its spiritual imagination. From roughly 300 BCE to 300 CE, Kushite kings and queens were buried here, beneath pyramids that combined Egyptian influence with African identity. Each tomb bore scenes of gods, kings, and rituals carved with symbols of power and rebirth. These were not imitations but adaptations, a civilization taking foreign ideas and reshaping them through local beliefs. The pyramids are aligned not only with stars but with legacy, proof that Kush was as politically sophisticated as it was spiritually ambitious. Archaeological exploration uncovered underground burial chambers filled with pottery, gold jewelry, and inscriptions written in the still undeciphered Meroitic script. And yet much was lost in the 19th century to treasure hunters who dynamited chambers in search of gold, leaving fractures in history as violent as the holes in stone. Modern preservation now fights desert winds and time, stabilizing these monuments with tools as careful as the ones that once built them. And as dusk settles, the pyramids glow red against the sky like embers of an empire. In Meroe, devotion did not fade with decline. It hardened into stone, rising from Africa's sands as a reminder that monumental vision belongs to no single land. Above the plains of central India, the fortress hill of Gwalior rises like a natural altar, its cliffs catching sunlight that bleaches stone into fire. Along these towering sandstone walls, far from roads and cities, appear figures so immense they seem to have emerged from the rock itself. The Jain statues of Gwalior. Carved between the 7th and 15th centuries, these colossal figures represent the Tirthankaras, spiritual teachers who achieved enlightenment and set souls free. Some stand over 17 meters tall, their faces tranquil, their eyes closed in eternal meditation. Unlike rulers etched in triumph, these statues display no power but restraint, an architecture of victory through silence. The engineering required to carve downward into a near-vertical cliff is itself monumental. Artisans suspended themselves from ropes, chiseling day after day into unforgiving stone. Precision here was devotional. A miscalculation would fracture not just a sculpture, but a belief. The figures embody Jain philosophy, nonviolence, detachment, purity. Their stillness is symbolic, their symmetry intentional, their scale a contradiction, massive forms teaching the lesson of humility. In a land of noisy gods and colorful rituals, these pale sentinels preach through absence and restraint. Archaeological records indicate royal patronage by dynasties sympathetic to Jain ideals, supporting the carving not as public spectacle, but sacred commitment. Over centuries, rain has softened contours and earthquakes have cracked limbs, yet the figures endure, durable against erosion in both stone and meaning. Conservation efforts today focus on preventing water seepage and surface degradation, balancing reverence with science. Yet despite scaffolds and restoration tools, there remains something unapproachable in these giants. They are not monuments to kings, they are monuments to renunciation. Standing beneath them, one senses a rare truth chiseled into the cliff. that the greatest engineering feat of all may not be to conquer land, but to master the self. On the edge of Egypt's most mythic plateau, where desert meets sky in quiet tension, the Great Sphinx gazes toward the rising sun. At its feet, half buried by sand and time, stand two of the oldest stone temple complexes on Earth, the Sphinx Temple and the Valley Temple of Giza. These structures are built from limestone blocks weighing up to 200 tons each, quarried from the same bedrock as the Sphinx itself. The walls are undecorated, austere, and absolute. Architecture stripped to mass and proportion alone. Within the Valley Temple, granite floors and alabaster statues lie in shattered elegance, revealing a ritual center not for public worship, but divine processions. Constructed during Egypt's 4th dynasty, around 2500 BCE, these temples are intimately tied to Pharaoh Khafre and his enduring dream of godhood. This was a civilization where engineering was theology, and monuments were not built to impress men, but to instruct the gods. Aligned with cosmic precision, the temples channeled light through narrow passages, bathing statues in solar glow during sacred moments. The landscape itself became an instrument, turned toward heaven with mathematical devotion. Every angle, every chamber, appears guided by more than functionality, by ritual. Archaeology here uncovered fragments of statues that once lined the walls, portraits carved with such realism they seem alive even in ruin. The temples also preserve the earliest known building technique, using massive stone blocks with no mortar, fitted so tightly that even modern tools struggle to slip between them. Preservation today confronts groundwater, pollution, and erosion from millions of visitors who approach in wonder and leave in dust. And yet these temples persist, devoted to an eternal performance enacted long after the priests have vanished. They remain silent witnesses in the theater of eternity, stone stages on which humanity once rehearsed immortality. Along the Mediterranean coast of Lebanon, waves lap against the harbors of Sidon, a city that once ruled the sea with sails of purple dye and wood from sacred forests. Beneath its soil lies a more enduring fleet, monumental stone sarcophagi crafted not for travel, but for eternity. Discovered in royal burial grounds in the late 19th century, these coffins are masterpieces of ancient sculpture. Carved from marble and limestone, some weigh over 15 tons, adorned with reliefs of warriors, gods, hunting scenes, and mythic triumphs. The most famous, so-called Alexander sarcophagus, reveals battles frozen in stone, executed with Greek precision and Near Eastern symbolism. These were not simple coffins. They were biographies in mineral form. Crafted between the 5th and 4th centuries BCE, the sarcophagi reflect Sidon's position as a cultural crossroads, where Persian rule, Greek artistry, and Phoenician identity merged into a single stone language. The craftsmanship is astonishing. Muscular figures, flowing cloaks, and expressions rendered with enduring realism. This is not funerary monotony, but storytelling in marble. Purpose here was memory itself. These tombs were temples in miniature, housing the dead as divinities within sculpted myth. Devotion was measured in detail, durability and depth of incision. Excavations uncovered inscriptions, jewelry, and remnants of wood and fabric, offering rare insight into burial rituals of the elite. Today, conservation and museum protection preserve these masterpieces, relocating some to sealed halls far from the seaward air that once shaped Sidon's fate. But beneath the polished floors of galleries, one still feels the hush of stone sealed against time. These sarcophagi do not simply contain the past. They display it, unashamed, monumental, immortal. In the green fields of Brittany, where mist rises from ancient soil and Atlantic winds never sleep, tens of thousands of stones stand in disciplined silence. At Karnak, the earth itself appears to have been enrolled into architecture. Over 3,000 megaliths are arranged in long lines stretching kilometers across farmland and forest, aligned with uncanny consistency. Some rise taller than a house, others barely break the grass. Yet together they form Europe's greatest prehistoric monument, a calendar of stone whose language we have yet to decode. Erected around 4,500 BCE, these alignments predate Stonehenge and the pyramids, making them among the earliest examples of large-scale human engineering. Transporting and planting these stones required collective devotion on a scale rarely imagined with such early communities. No writing explains them. No inscription interprets them. Scholars suggest astronomical observatories, ancestral memorials, ritual landscapes, perhaps all of these at once. What is certain is precision. The lines curve subtly with the earth, respecting natural contours. This was not disorder mistaken for mystery. This was controlled chaos, disciplined by belief. The landscape itself was drafted into ceremony. Over millennia, stones were toppled, reused, erased. Preservation efforts today fence and catalog, striving to protect a monument that resisted explanation even when whole. And yet the effect remains undeniable. As dusk settles across the fields, the stones cast shadows longer than memory. They appear not dead but awaiting instruction, as if at any moment the heavens might once again give orders to stone. Karnak is not architecture. It is alignment between earth and idea. High on a stone terrace at the foot of Iran's Zagros Mountains lies Persepolis, Persia's grandest dream carved in limestone. At its heart stands the Apadana Hall, once a forest of columns lifting a roof that seemed to float above Earth itself. Each column soared over 20 meters high, crowned by double-headed bulls and lions that carried beams of cedar imported from distant forests. Here, monumental architecture did not crush visitors with mass, but elevated them with grace. Built by Darius I in the 6th century BCE, the Apadana functioned as a ceremonial hall for the Achaemenid Empire, a stage upon which kings received tribute from 100 nations. Reliefs carved into stairways depict delegates in traditional dress-bearing gifts: gold, animals, jewels, textiles. This was empire rendered in stone procession. The precision is breathtaking. Every figure is carved with dignity, each detail symbolic. Power here was not violence but order. Engineering was not concealed. It was exhibited. The hall did not intimidate through enclosure, but impress through invitation. When Alexander the Great burned Persepolis, the Apadana's roof collapsed in flame and thunder. What remains today is a skeleton of elegance, columns like broken trees in a stone forest. Modern archaeology has reconstructed fragments and stabilized foundations, breathing life into ruins through careful restoration. Yet no repair can recreate the echo of sandals, the shimmer of silk, the sound of loyalty marching in silence. Still, the Apadana stands incomplete and therefore perfect, a monument not to conquest, but to complexity. In southern Georgia, where the Kura River coils through steep valleys and the Caucasus Mountains loom like ancient guardians, an entire city opens its mouth in the cliff face. Varzia is not built, it is excavated. More than 600 chambers honeycomb the rock, forming a subterranean capital of monks, queens, and soldiers. Churches glow with medieval frescoes, tunnels twist into darkness, and staircases rise toward light that no architect placed. Here, geology became blueprint. Commissioned in the 12th century by Queen Tamar, Varzia was both monastery and fortress, a spiritual refuge hidden behind illusion. From a distance, it was nothing. Up close, it was everything. Engineering here was invisibility. Rainwater systems ran through carved gutters. Storage rooms preserved food for sieges. Hidden passages slipped through stone like secrets. And at its heart stood a church carved entirely from bedrock, frescoed with saints and crowned with prayer. Earthquakes later shattered the cliff, revealing the city's interior like a broken shell. What was once hidden became history. Archaeological study continues to uncover tunnels, artifacts, and writings, each echoing with monastic routine and imperial ambition. Preservation now battles erosion and collapse in a war against gravity and time. Yet Varzia survives, not as stone, as defiance. It is a city that renounced the skyline and chose the mountain's heartbeat instead. Devotion carved into geology. From gates and towers to alignments and tombs, humanity has spoken in stone longer than it has spoken in words. These monuments are not failures of ancient technology. They are triumphs of imagination. They stand not because they were perfect, but because we were determined. Across continents, devotion was engineered, and engineering became faith. Stone remembers us, even when we forget ourselves.